Hello, I am Mac, at least for a day, and everything's going to be okay. Today we're going to be discussing will Hello Games improve caves in the 2021 No Man's Sky anniversary update, or will they ever improve caves for that matter? So caves in No Man's Sky are one of the few things that have not really been improved at all for the most part. Caves are, I mean, they've changed a bit over the years, but they're still pretty much the same as they were when the game first came out. For instance, this thing right here, it used to be in the first version of No Man's Sky that came out, these things were on every single planet and always in caves, and they're still in caves. I called them fossils because they were like giant fossilized coral or something. Um, but yeah, and I'm trying to remember. Rock formations like this have always been in caves. They used to be made of iron, but well, yeah, I think they were made of iron in the very first version of the game. Now they're made of cobalt, which is a slight change, but we still have rock formations. They can be different shapes, but this hexagon formation is very common, and there's like a traffic cone shaped rock that's also very common, and it's pretty much those two. I can't think of anything else besides the hexagon and the traffic cone rocks. And then caves have always had well, this cave's kind of mixed with the above ground assets. But where is the glowing plants? Where's all the glow coming from anyway? Not sure. But usually in caves we have these little flower things that are glowing. This cave doesn't seem to have them for some reason. We've got some other luminous plant stuff here. Oh, there it is. Yeah, the cave marrow plants can be slightly varied. Basically, they can have flower shapes on them, or they can be bare, like this kind. This kind is bare, and then they can have a slight like bud-shaped flower on them, or they can have the flower be completely open. But that's pretty much the same variance on cave marrow. And what this stuff actually is changed many times over the years. They used to just be made of carbon, I think. Then later they were called what did it used to be called? Something else. They used to be made of something else. Now they're called cave marrow, and they have no use anymore. For a while, whatever they were made of for a while used to be an important ingredient for batteries, but now I don't think there's much of any use for cave marrow. I think somebody told me you can refine it into something semi-useful, like oxygen or something. But other than that, it's pretty much completely useless now. So pretty much all of these assets in caves have always been there. I remember these are cone-shaped, but they're not the same cone-shaped rocks that can appear in some caves. But these have always been in caves. I remember they were always in there. These curly-Q little things are a bit new. So they've added a few new assets to caves. This puffy stuff has always been in caves. Oh, look! Cool, there's a different variant on the cave marrow. So this is the bigger flower version of it. And yeah, rocks like this have always been in caves. So caves have always been exactly the same. They have some variation in their assets, but they've never added like any really new, interesting assets to them. And in fact, after the No Man's Sky Next update, and that update is significant because it was the final time that they completely regenerated the universe. After the next update, caves got really bad. Like, they didn't have hardly any glowing plants in them at all. They were really dark and drab and boring. But thankfully, I think it was in the Beyond update that they brought back the luminous plants and color and some of these other mossy things to caves, so that caves were actually a little interesting again. But they basically brought them back to where they'd been when the game first came out. Caves have never gotten a big improvement that's like really noticeable. They're basically as drab as the ocean floors used to be before the Abyss update. So oceans used to always have the exact same assets with some slight variance. But then in the Abyss update, we got tons of cool new stuff that can appear underwater. Lots of assets that can also be found on exotic planets. And I think in the Origins update, they made ocean creatures a lot more common so that they would appear. Thankfully, we still do get these weird caves that have above ground assets in them, so it's kind of like a different cave, but it's just technically a bug where above ground assets are spawning in the caves. But as far as the actual cave stuff, and also caves have become a lot more rare. In the original couple versions of the game, caves were everywhere. Like, you couldn't walk around without tripping over a cave entrance. And sometimes there were like giant fields, like, that didn't have a roof over them. They were like above ground of cave assets just all over the place, which I guess is kind of how it shouldn't be. I guess there shouldn't be a ton of cave assets above ground because of the weird way it formed. But now it's like really hard to find a cave. Like, I had to fly my ship around for a while before I found a cave entrance. So there's several things they could do to improve caves. They could have a ton more assets, basically do an Abyss update, but for caves, where they add a whole bunch of cool stuff like glowing crystals, more creatures. Creatures can occasionally be in caves. It's usually just crabs, or sometimes the fat hippo type creatures. But they could add like they could add biological horrors. These are humming sacks. They just have albumin pearls in them. But they could add the eggs that spawn biological horrors to caves. That would be scary. Or they could just have roaming biological horrors in caves. That would be awesome. They could add other new creatures that live in caves, scary things or cool things. And in addition to lots of new assets like different rocks, crystals, things like that. As you can see, just walking through here, everything's exactly the same for this planet's assets for caves. But yeah, that's basically what I would like. I would like an Abyss update, but for caves. So tell me what you all think. How could they improve caves? Oh, another thing I'd really like is buildings. I've always wanted to have underground buildings. Buildings are usually only underground if there's some weird bug. They're usually always above ground. It'd be nice to have underground ruins. We have ruins where some of it is buried halfway underground, but it'd be nice to have, like, you'd have to go really deep in a cave and you'd find a building underground. I know Hello Games' procedural generation doesn't quite work like that. The way it works is it plonks buildings down on the surface of the planet, and they'd have to do a lot of reprogramming to make it so that buildings could populate underground. One thing they did add, I believe, in the next update was these hazardous things. So that was a slight update to caves. But I would like a really crazy cool update, just like the Abyss update for caves. So tell me what you think they could do to improve caves. Do you think they'll finally do a cave update anytime soon? There's no indication that they're planning to, but it would be nice if they finally did. like maybe increase the size of caves, change the assets, increase the number of cave openings on planets. We know they can change the terrain somewhat now without completely regenerating the universe, so I definitely think a big cave update would be possible. So let me know what you think, and that should do it. So I have been Mac. Thank you for joining me for a day, and remember, everything's going to be okay.